Hello everyone, it's me, Clayton. I just got out of seeing the latest My Little Pony episode known as Once Upon a Zeppelin. Now, in this episode, we get another Twilight-centered story, which is always a treat. And you know what, it's also a treat? Getting to see your family again. As if that wasn't enough treats for this great episode, we also have the return of a fan-favorite antagonist known as Iron Will. And he's just as entertaining and just as over-the-top as ever. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story is that Twilight Sparkle's trying to take a break from her princess duties by going on a vacation with her family, as well as Shining Armor, Princess Cadence, and Flurry Heart. You know, it's nice to see her parents again, of course. So, unfortunately, when they get on the Zeppelin cruise, they figure out that it's a themed vacation set up by Iron Will to attract a bunch of ponies to meet Princess Twilight. So, Twilight has to go through her princessy duties while on the ship to please the guests when she wanted to spend time with her folks. Yeah. So the story here is actually does make sense, considering Twilight is treated as essentially a celebrity when she's around everywhere, in my opinion. Though, given that she's a princess, that does make sense given this in this world. And I honestly understand that some people don't want to be treated as a celebrity 24/7, even though some people feel the obligation to treat someone as such throughout their entire lives once they get to that point. So Twilight's problem here with everyone else does make sense, and her eventual blow up at the end of the episode is justified given how much she missed out on and how much she wanted to do with her family. Now that she, at that point, felt like she had a break from doing all the things that she was obligated to do. Speaking of obligations, that's part of the message of the story, that you should have obligations to others, but you should also have obligations to yourself. Since it was Twilight's decision to go along with Iron Will's plan to make sure that everyone was happy, she's partially the reason why she skipped out on so many things. I say partially because it's mostly Iron Will's fault, but you get what I mean. And I think it's an important message, considering that I sometimes put aside the things I want to do for the sake of others, but sometimes I don't set a limit to how many things I put off, so I end up missing out on some things that I might have wanted to do. Say, for example, when you're at an amusement park and you want to do stuff with your friends, but you don't get the chance to do something yourself that you wanted to do. It's a message that I felt could be handled well, and it was here. Even though it hasn't been handled that many times in most cartoons. But I think that's part of what makes this episode stand out a bit more. Also, hearing Iron Will was great. I think his over-the-top performance reminds me even more of Hercule Satan from Dragon Ball Z. Hearing Britt McKillop and Andrew Francis as Shining Armor and Princess Cadence was again a treat. I've loved them ever since A Canterlot Wedding. And hearing Andrew Francis voice Shining Armor is more of a comedic role. I understand some people have a problem with his more comedic elements because it doesn't come across as the captain of the guard that he did when he started out. But in my opinion, it does work, considering he's been a goofball for a couple of seasons now. So at this point, I just laugh whenever something unfortunate does happen to him. But I'm laughing with the characters, not at Shining Armor, if that makes any sense. Also, Flurry Heart's here. She's adorable as ever, and she has really grown on me ever since she first appeared a few seasons back. Finally, Twilight's parents, I actually like the way they were portrayed in this episode, considering that in the few glimpses we get to see their personalities, Twilight's parents come across as just, typical supportive parents. But I do like the dynamic between the fun-loving dad and mom and Twilight's own conflict in this episode. The fact that they are having fun, but they still want to make sure their daughter's having as much fun as they are. It's a nice way to stay true to their personalities while working with the conflict of this episode. There's not much else to say. It's just a fun time, and I do think it's a solid episode and overall a solid season. So I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. See you next time.